Welcome back to another episode of Hot Takes with Kari and Keelan. This is Kari Rae Davis with Kari Sells the City.
And Keelan Harvey with the Harvey Home Team and Highlands Residential Mortgage.
So, we are excited to report that the market is heating back up. And Keelan, I wanted to chat with you today about the new jobs report that has come out and the fact that interest rates are going to be coming down soon. So, I wanted to see how things were in your land over there.
Yeah, we're excited. I mean, it feels good to be right. Like, eventually, I've been talking about the BLS jobs report and how we've been so frustrated and how they're overstating jobs and how the data is eventually coming out. And it's just like, I don't know, it's like redemption. Like, fine, you know what I mean? Because
Right?
we're all scratching our head looking at the real data, like how are they coming up with these numbers? And now it's working in our favor. So I also mentioned before there's going to be a big job report on the 6th,
Huh?
which also will put pressure on the Fed for a Fed reduction in on the 18th. We're looking for a weak job report, and sure enough, they expected 160,000 jobs, came in at 142,000. And then they're up to their old tricks. You know, they're doing their revisions again. So they revised 86,000. Yeah, so the May reading went from 206 to a revision of 179. Now it's 118,000. Like they're just knocking jobs off like it's going out of style, which is really frustrating, as I said before, because the headline figures is what the market reacts to. So we'd be in lower interest rates right now if this stuff was appropriate and accurate. And, I don't know, did we talk about the 818,000 jobs they got rid of on our last episode?
We did. I don't know if we did for sure, but we've talked before about how the job reports seem to be inflated, that it always seems to be that they go and adjust the number after the initial release of that report. And I've been hearing about it on the news too, that the job report adjustments where the numbers weren't quite as high as they thought they were. And I don't know, I can't remember specifically the reason why they changed, but it brings me back to our conversations where you're like, these aren't accurate numbers. Like, it's not actually what they're projecting. So this is just coming back to that conversation again, saying, you're reading the tea leaves correctly.
Yeah, and I don't know if I said it, but they actually removed 818,000 jobs. If I didn't mention that before, just swept 818,000 jobs just right off the board, like just in general, just the other week. So, I mean, on
Okay.
top of all that, that's huge. It's like I mean, it's almost a million jobs. Like it's not like a small amount, right? So,
Right.
but in hindsight, feels good to be right. Now, the beauty of this is that's putting more pressure on the Fed. This report solidifies that jobs are weak. Now they're going to have to reduce rates. We're talking about 25%. Even the Fed's mentioning, reduction. The question's not 20 if they're going to reduce anymore. It's 25 or 50 basis points.
Okay.
If they do 50 basis points, even 25, it's going to put a pretty good ding in the market. But overall, rates have improved significantly. I mean, even on the trajectory to the 18th and where we're at right now, your rate should, I can't quote rates without getting in trouble, but it should
Right.
not start with a 7. I'll tell you that much, which they were been that way for a very long time.
Right.
So, it should be in a 6 depending on where you qualify,
Okay.
which is huge for people. I'm seeing refinances coming back again, which is interesting. All these people that had the high 7% interest rates, even low sevens. I'm refinancing somebody right now on a low 7 and saving them a full 1%. It's
Okay.
a good chunk of change. So it's time to revisit. I mean, and if you've racked up debt, which a lot of people have, savings is super low and everybody dipped into their credit cards.
Mhm.
Now I think is the time to really tee up on your refinance, everybody out there. Because this next couple months, for me, the sweet spot for our customers right now, we're doing, getting our applications in and we're waiting for that 18th. I don't see a huge event besides maybe the election that's
Right.
going
So
to
the
come.
18th is when they're, specifically supposed to be dropping. Is that the date that they
Yeah.
give everybody?
Yeah, that's the Fed meeting, and that's when they'll announce like a drop. That's going to be a big day. And then there's not huge events other than the election after that.
Right.
So I'm kind of teeing everybody to get ready in that world for refinance, and then try to find a break-even point within 2 years because I think it'll be a slow train to the bottom. So the
Okay.
reason I'm bringing all this up is just there is a strategy in place right now for me and my customers and what we're going to do. The reason I want to do a break even point in 2 years is because we know we're thinking about then is when we're going to hit the bottom of these interest rates.
Mhm.
You might not want to refinance twice, but I mean, think about how much money you're losing between in those 2 years. Some of these people, substantial amounts. So
What is
on
the
that
cost to
front,
refinance most of the time for people out there have purchased a home and they know that they want to be doing this? What are the costs associated with refinancing?
so when you bought your house, you remember you had all those third-party costs, title, escrow, all that. That all has to get repaid. But the difference between a refinance and a purchase is it comes out of the equity of your home. A lot of people don't realize that. So it's not like you're forking out a bunch of cash to refinance,
Okay.
but it's still your money. It's equity in your house, so it still costs money. So you got to be very careful about that. So it's like 2-3%, somewhere around there. It depends on, how big your loan is and all that, how much your taxes are and all that. But 6 to 12 grand
Okay.
somewhere. I'll just give like a broad stroke, depending on which side you are. It
Right.
can be more than that if you're in the millions, but just for most people, I would say you'd be around there.
Okay.
But
And it comes out of your equity. I didn't know that.
yeah, it comes out of your equity, so you're not
Okay.
throwing any cash at it. The only thing you'd pay for would be your appraisal.
Got it. Okay.
But for those of you out there, you're getting bombarded with calls right now to refinance, and it's probably not in your best interest, FYI. You got to be careful with this. So there's an equation we do at your break-even point. So you need to take how much it costs to refinance and divide it by how much money you're saving, and we'll give you a break-even point.
Okay.
Right? So if you have $10,000 in closing costs, I'm terrible. Believe it or not, I'm not great at math. We have these things.
You're in good company. I mean, I've
Calculators
got
and
my
spell
calculator
check.
when I need it. Sorry, folks. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I can't spell anymore and I can't do math anymore because of spell check. But long story short, let's say you're saving $300 a month on 10,000 bucks. I should have just known that. 33 months to break even point.
Okay.
So, I mean, depending on what it is, that's a little longer. We might want to wait a month or two, but somewhere in the 25, 20, somewhere around there, break even point is what
Okay.
I'm looking for people. But I would get teed up, get teed up and get ready for that on the refinance front.
Well, and that's something that I'm thinking about is because I'm one of those folks, I bought at the beginning of 2023 and my rate is lower than what it got to. So I was super grateful that I got in when I did. And I do want to refinance as rates come down just to make it so I'm getting my payment monthly to monthly payment that I know it's never going to change because I do have a buy down. So my mortgage payment will go up in March if I don't refinance before then. But my plan is to force appreciation and to go ahead and do some updates on the house and give it a little bit of a facelift and give it some new sparkle and paint, and then have an appraiser come in and have it reappraised. So hopefully by that point, I will accelerate the appreciation and my home will be worth more than it would be if I didn't do any of those things. So I need a little time to get those tasks done before I refinance. But I have to tell you, I am getting calls and text messages, actually. Even people are texting me and they're kind of being a little pushy, like, hey, I haven't heard from you, and it's like, well, maybe
Yeah.
there's a reason why. So,
Yeah. Well, they're aggressive. They're call centers, they're paid
okay,
on dialing for dollars and they don't care about your best interest. They don't, I mean, at the end of the day, that's equity in your home and you want to be very careful that you don't waste that. It's a lot of money. By the
right.
time you get done refinancing $10,000, $12,000 out of the equity of your house, that's a pretty good chunk of change. So you need to talk to a certified mortgage advisor like myself
Right.
that can walk you through the whole thing. You don't want to tell a person
Don't
that's
do
sitting.
anything over the internet or over the phone. Yeah.
Well, and they'll quote you a ridiculously low rate and it sounds beautiful, and then you look at it, be careful. It's called points. So you can pay money, a bunch of money, and to get your rate lower, and that would be a bad piece of advice right now because rates are going to continue to go down,
Mhm.
and you want to kind of hedge your bets on that and be careful. You don't want to be paying. I mean, yeah, oh, I can get you into a 6% even interest rate, and then the paperwork comes in, you're paying 2 points or 2% for that. That could be just that alone could be 20, 30 grand for that
Right.
rate. And if you're not paying attention, they're happy to throw that in there because all your mind is thinking is rate, 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 rate. It's not about rate, it's about break even point. and what does the future look like? You want to refinance as little as possible. So there's a lot to take into account when it comes to refinancing. So it's just huge warning to everybody out there. Be careful. Your home,
Beware.
yeah, I mean, you work so hard to get into a home. Do not waste your equity because of some sleazy salesperson is
Well, and
trying,
that's what I was going to
you
say
know.
is it is like a sales tactic too. Like these people that might be at a call center might get paid for each appointment that they set or whatnot. It might not even, they may not even care necessarily about getting you into refinancing, but they may have some incentive to set the appointment even just alone there. So they may not, they probably wouldn't necessarily have your best interest, at heart in those situations.
Yeah, especially the online lender. It's not even a human. Like you could just fill out some information online and you can't be your own expert, you know. I'm sure are, knowledgeable out there, but most people don't know what the heck they're doing. And, so be careful. I just care about people and I don't want you to waste that opportunity because I mean you want to make the most of that.
Definitely. Like you said, it's your equity, it's your future. You're building wealth. So be strategic about it.
Well, and for the new people too, we said this was coming, and Carrie, you were saying it's busier.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, when I'm out touring with the clients that I'm working as for buyers right now, we're definitely seeing review dates come up. There are some homes that are still sitting on the market, but everything that's new, that's active, and there's so much more active new homes coming out as compared to August. And August is generally just a slow month in real estate. I wonder, depending on what happened with rates, if things were going to heat up a little bit, but it stayed consistently kind of quiet. Towards the end of the month, we started to get more listings, but now that we're here in September, I have a lot more active listings to sift through for the people that I'm looking for homes. And generally, the homes that we're going to look at have review dates. So, and I'm seeing from other agents that I'm working with that homes are definitely starting to get bid up again. So I think that people just need to be ready. I know that there's a lot of people that have been on the fence about whether they want to buy a second home or they want to move up, and they've been waiting for this time to come for rates to come down. But as Keelan and I have been talking about for this past, 10
Here.
months, 8 months, it seems like almost a year,
Yeah.
that when this happens, there's going to be a flood of buyers, which is going to drive prices. So,
And for
it,
those out there, if they don't know, Carrie, when she says review date, that's for the offer review date. See, I
right.
speak mortgage, so you have to like correct me so people can understand.
Yeah.
You say,
Tell them what I mean. Yes, exactly.
yeah, yeah. And thank you for doing that because I just spout out like mortgage, and people are probably like, "What is he talking?"
But yeah, no, yeah. A review date is when the seller is asking for all offers to be received at the same time. However, sometimes that doesn't necessarily mean anything. If you are looking at a home and it's super attractive to you and there is a review date, you want to be working with an agent that is aggressive enough to go to the seller and the listing agent to find out if they're looking at offers early. Because sometimes sellers are like, hey, let me see what you got. It has to be compelling, but you have to work with people that have good strategy and that have really good relationships with the other agents. I can't stress that enough because there's a lot of people out there in this business and not everybody is cut from the same cloth. So
Well, and Carrie, you went through the crazy time of like the 2020 where it was like everything was multiple offers, and even nowadays there's many times that you've won deals with offer
absolutely.
because you
Yep.
have a
Sometimes
strong
they're not even
offer.
the highest offer and my offers are getting accepted. So I really believe in coming from a place of contribution and being an advocate for your buyer
Yeah.
and talking with that listing agent and finding out what is important to the seller. What are they looking for? Talking to them about my buyer, who they are, why they're great, if there's anything we need. Because a lot of the time, it depends on who you're working with. But if you are a first time home buyer getting into the market, maybe you're just barely able to scrape your down payment together, but closing costs are a whole other beast that maybe nobody's spoken to you about until you sit down with Keelan or I. And that can be $8,000 to $10,000 or more, depending on how you tailor everything. So, sometimes you might need to have your closing costs covered by the seller. And I've generally been able to get closing costs for my clients pretty easily just by being honest and letting the listing agent know, hey, we really, really need this to make a deal. And everybody wants to put a deal together. We're all working for our client's best interest. But it's like if I come and say, hey, this particular client, we really need closing costs, are they willing to talk to us about that? How does that look? And generally they're like, either write it into the offer or it's been on the market and they're willing to help us, and maybe the seller just really wants to sell their house and they're happy, to work with us. So every situation is going to be different.
Well, and good agents get it. They get
Right.
it. They understand. They've been on the other side of that where maybe they need 5 or 10,000 closing costs just to make this work, and
Mhm.
we're trying to give them the best price possible to make it work too. So,
Mhm.
you it really helps when you got pros on both sides and making deals.
Absolutely. Yes. I mean, I know when I have an agent on the other end of a transaction that's good with their clients. And I mean, I love working with nice people. And I've had lots of transactions where the agent on the other end was wonderful, pleasant to work with. We all have a can do attitude of like, how can we help each other? I have had some transactions that weren't necessarily like that. That
Yeah.
aren't the ones that I like to talk about as much because I like to be positive about things. But you get two sides of the coin, and I want to be somebody that when they get my phone call, maybe they've heard of me and they're like, Kari Rae, I've heard of you. Like, so that's a good lead in where
Yeah.
I'm doing a good job where my name might be known in their office, but they're happy to hear from me because they know that I'm going to get the job done. So
Well, at the end of the day, that's what they want. The most likely to close and who they know is going to do a good job and be amicable through the
right.
process, right?
Yeah.
So it definitely matters who you work with.
Well, and I think with this new, the new buyer agency has gone into effect, and that's in Washington. We've been doing this all year, but the federal, rules of making sure that we have buyer agency agreements in place and that have compensation talked about for the buyer's agent.
Mhm.
We are seeing some sellers not offering any commissions to a buyer's agent, but not a lot. I've only seen a couple of those so far. But you know what? The people that I've been working with that I tell about this that are buyers, they understand that we have to get paid. And this is just another conversation about how we get paid. I had somebody say to me yesterday, I don't work for free. Why would I expect you to? And I'm like, thank you. That's how it should be.
Awesome.
So I think that this is just a new normal in our industry, and I don't think it's that going to affect people that poorly or that badly, because if they're really serious buyers, they understand that the conversation about compensation is going to be happening, from the very beginning instead of at the back end. So,
I think everybody understands that it's this how it's worked forever and it's fair and the
mhm.
purchase price builds in that commission for the agents.
Right,
And that's it. Anybody that's knowledgeable and understands how real estate works gets that no brainer, right? But you're going
right,
to get those bad apples that are going to say, oh, I'm going to take advantage of that. Well, no, you're actually just shooting yourself in the foot because you're limiting the people that are going to come to your home or are going to want to work with you, because great agents who you want to be responsible for your buyers are not going to be like, oh, cool, let's do that.
right. We're not
You don't work
discount
for free.
brokerages.
Yeah, you don't work
Yeah.
for free, and it takes a lot of your time. So you'll just move on at the end of the day if that's how it is. Now, guess what? You can't even get a buyer for your house, or when you could have had 10, now you have like one or
One.
something at a super discounted purchase price,
Right,
right?
right. Yeah, I
So
think I think it's just it's going to take education on both sides for the agents to really educate the seller and the buyer about the benefits and the pros and the cons of either not offering a buyer agent broker commission or going ahead and doing that, because ultimately the buyer in Washington has the information on the listing. Like, it tells us, what the buyer broker compensation from the seller is going to be, and it's up to the buyer. The buyer may say, I don't want to see this house because I know that if we end up writing an offer, that there's a chance that the seller may not pay my buyer broker. I mean, we'll always ask, of course, but
and,
they
and most
might,
of those people
some
are
people
going to
might
move.
just pass. So,
I was just going to say, most of those people are going to move on. They're just going to be like, I don't even want to put an offer on it. I don't really care at this
well,
point.
and we as agents can't determine that, but we're putting the power into the buyer's hands, saying, okay, these are the homes I want to see, and these are the homes I don't want to see.
I
So,
mean, and it makes me wonder who the listing agent is that agrees to that as far as the strategy and how you're educating your customers, because that's not a winning strategy at all. So unless they're very, very desperate, and I'm just gonna do whatever I can to get this listing. But the reality is professionals set their customers up for success.
right,
And that's not who you want to be working with. So
right. You want to make sure you're interviewing everybody. So,
yeah.
Well, Keelan, I'm excited to hear that interest rates are coming down. I'm excited to hear that you're getting busy. I'm getting busy. It feels good to feel this, crisp air coming along, and that means we're going to be out showing more houses.
Absolutely.
So, if anybody out there has questions, Keelan and I are always available. Give me a call, 206-330-6985.
And you can give me a 206-321-4941.
All right, everybody, have a great weekend.
Everybody take care.